Good evening, I'm Neil Köksal, and this is The National. Rohingya refugees still on the run from Burmese forces, despite assurances from Aung San Suu Kyi.
They have never seen anything quite like this.
Nala Ayed bears witness at the border. NFL players and owners defy Donald Trump on a wild weekend of sports and politics.
Get that son of a bitch off the field right now. Out. He's fired.
For the first time in decades, Germans elect far-right federal candidates. Plus, Salman Rushdie's new book for turbulent times. He tells Duncan McHugh about meeting Donald Trump.
He, for some reason, pointed at me and told me that I was the man. You the man? I thought...
The number of Rohingya refugees fleeing Myanmar has slowed, but there is no decline in desperation. What's happening to them is veiled in euphemism and denial. Myanmar officials refuse to mention the minority group by name. The country's de facto leader, Aung San Suu Kyi, said military operations that triggered the exodus stopped weeks ago. But in Bangladesh today, what Nala Ayed saw and heard tells a different story.
Anguish is a heavy load carried across borders. On the final leg of an epic escape, they come with it in the thousands. Here, there is no ambiguity about why they left. Dean Mohammed says they were firing in my area and even called us out from our home and then slit my father's throat. A month since the Rohingya militant attack sparked the Burmese military's latest offensive, and countless international condemnations later, and they're still coming. When the military attacked, Ramzan Ali and his uncle hid for 7 days, surviving on banana tree stems and leaves. Then they walked for 8 days like this. It is only once they cross into Bangladesh that there is any relief. Locals handing out food, water, and compassion. Even money for a rickshaw. Clearly, people here in this area are no strangers to this because this has been going on for years. But they say, and the aid workers say, they have never seen anything quite like this. In Myanmar, they left behind a life as the unwanted, seen as foreigners. An upheaval, agonizing enough for the adults, is some way to start a life. Sakina Khatun gave birth after walking for 10 days. Her baby girl doesn't even have a name, but now inherits a wretched story. In that place, they're killing us and beating us, says Abdurrahim. Despite what de facto Burmese leader Aung San Suu Kyi said last week, Amnesty International says there were still attacks against Rohingya as recently as Friday. Yet more will cross the border from stateless to unsettled. Nala Ayed, CBC News on the Bangladesh-Myanmar border.
The area in Bangladesh near the Myanmar border is now dotted with pop-up cities of ragged tarps and tents. The scale of the need has ramped up quickly. Established refugee camps have swelled in size, but not fast enough. Spontaneous camps have also sprung up, most without even basic infrastructure, and the international response is struggling to keep up. When quarterback Colin Kaepernick refused to stand last season during the American national anthem, it was a statement about racial injustice by one player that seemed to spark little change. But today, after Donald Trump criticized Kaepernick and others, we saw that seed take root, with many more players taking a knee. Some, literally, entire sidelines bowed as the anthem played in stadiums. Some defied it in other ways, whether together or alone. All sent a message to the president, who considers himself a man of the people, a man now at odds with his people's beloved game. Paul Hunter has our story from Washington.
Oh, say, can you see?
It was a remarkable show of solidarity and defiance aimed directly at Donald Trump.
What so proudly we...
In stadium after stadium, anthem after anthem, National Football League players on one knee. Others with raised fists or locked arms, sometimes along with team owners. Some teams staying in their locker rooms for the anthem, some anthem singers themselves joining the protest. All of it a response to Trump's comments Friday about players who protest this way, who, in Trump's view, disrespect the U.S. flag.
Get that son of a bitch off the field right now. Out. He's fired.
Trump and his supporters frame it as unpatriotic, but the protests are aimed at highlighting racial inequality in the U.S. That's why former NFL quarterback Colin Kaepernick began it last year, a move, say some, that cost him his career, as no team hired Kaepernick this season. But Trump's comments and his calls to now boycott the NFL, and the view by many Trump is sympathetic to racist views, and all of a sudden, this.
It's a time where everybody in this country needs to come together. White, black, it doesn't matter what your race is. And it's unfortunate that, the leader of this country doesn't necessarily see it that way.
Even Robert Kraft, owner of the New England Patriots and a friend of Trump, wrote in a statement, "I am deeply disappointed by the tone of the comments made by the president." Said Trump today,
This has nothing to do with race. I've never said anything about race. This has nothing to do with race or anything else. This has to do with respect for our country and respect for our flag.
And the pushback against Trump by pro-athletes is no longer confined to football. Yesterday, a Major League Baseball player joined in during the anthem in Oakland. And when basketball star Steph Curry objected to Trump's actions on issues of race, Trump disinvited him to a championship celebration at the White House. Said Curry this weekend,
"It's just kind of beneath, I think, a leader of a country to go that route. It's not what leaders do."
And so it is that the politics of Donald Trump has now moved full on into the world of pro sports. The message to Americans seems to be pick a side in a country growing ever more divided on all fronts. Paul Hunter, CBC News, Washington.
Paul mentioned Trump's rescinded invite to Steph Curry, while he and the Warriors still plan to visit D.C. and say they'll find other ways to, quote, celebrate equality, diversity, and inclusion. Meanwhile, Trump tweeted support for another team that accepted his invite, the NHL's Pittsburgh Penguins. The team said, quote, any agreement or disagreement with the president's politics, policies, or agenda can be expressed in other ways. Well, that's the latest Trump controversy, but tonight he added fuel to another divisive issue, his travel ban. The old one, seen as a thinly veiled ban on some Muslims, expires tonight. The new one sets limits on 8 countries, including Venezuela and North Korea. The ban is considered indefinite and takes effect October 18. And another controversy with a familiar sound involves Trump's son-in-law and advisor, Jared Kushner. Kushner's lawyer confirms he used a private email to conduct White House business, activity first reported by Politico. It's not known whether sensitive or classified information was shared. Kushner's lawyer says the emails were eventually forwarded to a White House account in accordance with record keeping. Hillary Clinton's campaign, you'll remember, was dogged by her use of a private email server. Results are in tonight from Germany's federal election. Angela Merkel has secured a 4th consecutive term in office, but she has her work as chancellor cut out for her. A far-right nationalist party has won a significant amount of seats in parliament. Margaret Evans is in Berlin with the latest.
The moment of anticipation at Angela Merkel's party headquarters in Berlin, the countdown to the exit polls. And then that little disappointment. A clear win for the chancellor seeking a 4th term, but with a gain for the far right here. Ever the pragmatist, Merkel was quick to acknowledge it. No question about it, she said. We'd hoped for a slightly better result. That's totally clear. Voter turnout was high today, 77%. Germans choosing from a list of more than 24 parties in an election deemed significant for the European Union as a whole. Marius Millstreet didn't vote for Angela Merkel, but still had good words for her.
If you look at all the right-wing parties that are coming up in Europe, that all the changes in the US right now, so I think she's in a good position, but I still think that it's time for a change.
The election coincided with the famous Berlin Marathon, pounding through the German capital's historical center as the vote itself delivered another chapter. The far-right Alternative for Germany party captured some 13% of the vote, guaranteeing its entry into the parliament, the first time for a far-right grouping since the end of the Nazi era, and a major blot on the horizon for Angela Merkel.
The marathon has certainly made it a bit more complicated for some voters to get to the polls here in Berlin, but there's also a certain amount of symbolism in this race. Angela Merkel has never been known as a sprinter. From the start of her political career, she's been in it for the long game. She's a strategist.
She'll need it in the days ahead. Protesters angry over the AfD gains were on the streets in some German cities tonight. And Merkel will still have to form a coalition government, her previous partner, the Social Democratic Party, opting out this time. But her direction, she told supporters, remains clear. First form a government, and then win back the voters who abandoned them for the far right. Margaret Evans, CBC News, Berlin.
Coming up, on a press tour in Syria, Russia controls what reporters see. Chris Brown pulls back the curtain to get at what's really happening. Plus, Iraqi Kurds campaign for independence ahead of tomorrow's vote. After this week's deadly earthquake, another tremor has hit off the coast of Mexico, adding to days of aftershocks and fear. But today also brought some comfort. Hundreds attended the first Sunday Mass since the disaster. Of the more than 300 people killed, many were in Mexico City. In other areas where churches were destroyed, Mass was held in the streets. There was a big turnout on the streets of Vancouver today at a march for reconciliation. The aim is to reflect on dark chapters in Canadian history, but also to move forward. Briar Stewart has the details.
They gathered by the tens of thousands in downtown Vancouver. Indigenous groups and their supporters all walking together.
I didn't go to residential school, but it still affected me because I was stripped of my language and culture. So I will always stand and walk beside these people, 100%.
This is the city's second reconciliation march. The first walk was held in Vancouver 4 years ago. 70,000 people turned up. Organizers say since then there's been increased awareness about what reconciliation means across the country.
I want to hear that.
Chief Robert Joseph is a residential school survivor and one of the organizers of today's event.
More Canadians than ever before know about our shared history and know about the divide and the disparity that exists between all Canadians and Aboriginal people.
Veronica Shannon, her 80-year-old mother, both decided to come out.
I understand about the history of the Indigenous people, so I'm thinking, it's a great opportunity for us to come over here to support.
This walk comes nearly 2 years after Canada's Truth and Reconciliation Commission issued its final report with more than 90 recommendations, many of them yet to be implemented. Today in this crowd, there were renewed calls to reflect on the country's dark past and its current problems, like violence against Indigenous women and treaty rights.
This isn't our land. It was taken. It was unjust. And that's not over. That history continues and it persists.
The walk ended with a gathering in a park and a message about moving forward.
We're going to put those things past behind us now. It's the next 150 years, and it's your children and your grandchildren and my children and grandchildren that are going to write the next chapter.
The future this crowd hopes is more inclusive than the history they're trying to overcome. Briar Stewart, CBC News, Vancouver.
Straight ahead for you, the White House clamored for changes to NAFTA. As negotiations proceed here in Canada, it's still not clear what those changes might be.
Basically, it's a very simple device. In the road, there's a single cable buried, and through this cable we pass a current. Now, the current, of course, passing through the cable gives rise to a magnetic field about the cable. On the front of the vehicle, there are two coils, one on each side, and these sense the magnetic field coming from the cable. So what we do then is just to make sure that each coil is spaced exactly the same distance from the cable, and the car is therefore sitting squarely over the top of the cable. And this is done by sensing the change in the field of the coils. This information is passed into the car, into the electronic system, which decides how much off balance there is. Having decided on this, it passes an instruction to the steering column, and the steering column then operates to get rid of the imbalance in the system. The speed is regulated by controlling the frequency of the engine. In other words, you know that at a certain frequency of revolution, the car will be doing a certain number of miles an hour quite precisely. And so we have a very simple electronic device which you can set to your particular speed. This then checks the number of revolutions and again feeds back through a little loop and keeps those revolutions at that level, and the car therefore travels at that level.
There is one overwhelming fact that will shape the city of the 1980s. It is, of course, energy. The increasing price of energy will lead to changes in population density and in transportation patterns. Energy will increasingly determine where buildings are built and how they're built. While there will be new designs to meet the demands of energy conservation, the city of the 1980s will probably not look all that different from the city of the 60s and 70s. In fact, the need to conserve resources may mean a decade in which the city reflects the past as much as the future. The city in the past 2 decades was marked by an exodus. People moved away into the suburbs. The indications are this will change in the 1980s. Rising energy costs will make it expensive and inconvenient for people to live in sprawling suburbs. The need for higher density living will change the core of the city. Where there has been a boom in building offices, there will now be a boom building homes. Space in cities will not be wasted.
The big city centers will be building much more on the land that they have available, which is well serviced, of which there's quite a substantial amount.
1980s then may see the end of urban sprawl. Cities will contract, more people in less space. For some, that's a vision of an urban hell, but others see a hopeful side.
From a social point of view, it's great.
Today, one more chance to play in front of the home fans.
An emotional farewell today for Jose Bautista. He received a lengthy and loud standing ovation at what could be his final home game in a Toronto uniform. Bautista helped spark a massive resurgence of fan interest in the Jays. Many believe his age and performance this season will see him moving on. The headquarters for the World Anti-Doping Agency could stay in Montreal. During meetings this weekend in Paris, WADA executives decided not to hold an open bidding process after an agreement with Montreal expires in 2021. There was speculation the offices could move to Europe to be closer to the International Olympic Committee. A final decision is expected in November. The third round of NAFTA negotiations is underway in Ottawa, and today Canada's chief negotiator said it's not clear if a deal can be done by the end of the year, but he is still optimistic. The CBC's Catherine Cullen is following the talks.
One of the big questions about these negotiations has been how much progress is really being made. There's even been some suggestion that perhaps it's the Americans, the ones who wanted to renegotiate NAFTA in the first place, that are causing some of these delays. And today we heard from Canada's chief negotiator, Steve Verhoeven, who says that on some pretty key issues, they still don't have an American position. We're talking about sensitive topics like dairy, the auto sector, and how trade disputes are resolved for both countries and corporations. That one in particular is a big issue for Canada. Now, Verhoeven says that in general, progress is being made, that the tone has been pretty constructive, though he does say that there are moments around the negotiating table where things do get heated, and that he has seen some flashes of that America First attitude. Another big question is whether or not indeed these renegotiations can be wrapped by year's end, as many have hoped. Here's what Verhoeven had to say.
Well, we'll make good progress for the next few rounds, I think, but the end game is always the hardest part and impossible to predict. I think I've been wrong most times that I've tried to predict when a negotiation would conclude, so really hard to say.
The head of Canada's Auto Workers Union told reporters that he thinks this is all just a big charade, that the U.S. hasn't put many of its positions forward because it's ultimately just going to walk away from the table. Verhoeven says, though, that he hasn't seen any evidence to support that. Catherine Cullen, CBC News, Ottawa.
In a region ravaged by war and division, a referendum on an independent Kurdish state in Iraq is not a popular idea. Iraq's prime minister calls it potentially disastrous. The U.S., UN, Iran, and Turkey are among the countries also opposed to tomorrow's vote. But 5 million Iraqi Kurds are expected to cast ballots, putting dreams of self-determination on a collision course with consequence. Rebecca Collard has more.
The Man Khalil tea shop in Erbil is a testament to the Kurds' long struggle for independence. The walls here are covered with old photos of Kurdish leaders and resistance fighters. Black and white images from the days even before they fought against Saddam Hussein. Mohammed Khalil inherited this cafe from his father, along with a deep sense of nationalism and desire for an independent Kurdish state.
It's important to us because we have our own language, we have our own culture. We should have our own state. We should be holding identity cards that says Kurdish, not Iraqi Kurd or Kurdish Iraqi.
Like many here in this tea house, Khalil cites the long history of persecution of the Kurdish people.
The referendum on Monday is expected to pass with an overwhelming yes vote. But not all Kurds here in northern Iraq are supporting the referendum. Some say now is not the time.
Raboun Marouf worries about the lack of international support for the referendum, but also about the divisions among the Iraqi Kurds themselves.
I have no doubt it will lead to a failed state rather than a successful democratic Republican country. And I have no doubt it will be a country like Southern Sudan, Somalia, Afghanistan, something like that.
But most here feel they have struggled long enough.
If we get full independence, that means we're going to have our own institutions, we're going to have our own independent government.
Even with a strong yes vote tomorrow, full independence would come only with the support of Kurdish allies and neighbors, and after difficult negotiations. So far, that support isn't there. Rebecca Collard, CBC News, Erbil, northern Iraq.
Up next, novelist Salman Rushdie on the forces that gave the world a President Trump.
There's an old cynical saying amongst writers that the worse it is, the better it is. It actually is easier to write about hard times than good times.
He talks to Duncan McHugh about what's gone wrong and how to start fixing it. Plus, a message of renewal on the streets of Winnipeg.
This is the National News Bulletin, a summary of the day's news.
Even bad news sounded good in those exciting, terrible days when radio news came of age, especially when read by our own voice of doom, Lorne Greene. And Haas was a Colt.
Naval battle in the South Pacific.
Madam,
will you please put away that knitting? You're going to have to applaud, you know. Now, let's all relax. Everybody, shall we? Nobody be nervous.
And to balance the glum news from overseas, CBC Radio offered happy-go-lucky fare.
Who's there? It's the Happy Gang. Well, come on in.
It all began in 1901. The discoverer of wireless, Marconi, received his first transatlantic radio message from Signal Hill in Newfoundland.
Hi.
And CBC Radio has been seeing to it that Canada gets the message ever since. In an array of programs from music talk shows like this, ranging through schools and youth, agriculture, religion, serious music, and variety.
A busy place, the CBC, and a big country to serve. How do you suppose all these programs get to all the people spread all over the map?
Well, if you think of the network as a superhighway, then you can picture national program clearance as the traffic cop who keeps things flowing smoothly. National program clearance arranges distribution of our radio and TV programs by landlines and by coast-to-coast microwave network. Just to complicate matters, there are several problems arising out of the different time zones into which the country is divided, not to mention line availability.
Ah, yes, line availability.
I said not to mention that.
Oh, sorry.
A CBC color presentation.
Let's follow an average broadcasting day from the beginning. It's very simple. There's the business of booking studios, getting the slides to telecine, last-minute news inserts, coffee to be ordered, public affairs specials, graphics to be ordered and approved, clear screen projection to be set up, stage hands to be scheduled, coffee to be brought, beats to be lined up, pianos to tune, light bulbs to be replaced, monitors to be serviced, press releases to be issued, coffee to be tasted, props to be picked up, cameras to be fired, shot lists to be typed, rehearsals to be scheduled, contracts to be drawn up, cold coffee to be dumped, memos to be filed.
Hold it. Cut.
Cut. The only way this will cut is go back to the beginning.
Salman Rushdie has worn many hats for someone best known as a novelist, man on the run, social butterfly, and now an American citizen. But it is his provocative writing that is always at the forefront, purveying stories as political statements. Well, he's at it again. His latest novel, The Golden House, features an unconventional U.S. presidential run by a comic book supervillain. The CBC's Duncan McHugh sat down with Rushdie to talk about his new book. We'll get to that in a moment, but first, some background.
If anyone understands the power of words, it's Salman Rushdie. His writing caused him to live under the threat of assassination.
The Ayatollah Khomeini wants a British author dead.
In February 1989, Iran's Ayatollah Khomeini issued a fatwa calling for Rushdie's death. His alleged crime, Rushdie's novel, The Satanic Verses, was accused of insulting Islam.
If I saw the guy right, I'd kill him myself.
Protests erupted around the Muslim world. And Rushdie was forced into a life of hiding. Canada, though, was one of the first places he emerged publicly. In 1992, he was the guest of honor at a writer's benefit in Toronto. He arrived in secret, flown in on a private plane with the help of then Ontario Premier Bob Rae. Over the years, the fatwa has softened, and Rushdie has emerged back into public life. Today, he's seen as a symbol for free speech, but he also continues to provoke. His latest novel, The Golden House, tackles the world of American presidential politics. I sat down with Salman Rushdie earlier this week in Toronto.
Salman Rushdie, so good to meet you.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
He's not named in this book, but I'm wondering how much of this novel is a response to Donald Trump's campaign and then his presidency.
Well, less than you'd think, actually, because the main storyline I actually have had in my head for 8 or 9 years, the story of the Golden Family. You know, this family with a shady past on the other side of the world, trying to escape that past and show up in New York City with different names and different identities. I had all that. And then I thought, try and write a realistic social panorama of what's been happening in America in the last decade or so. You know, and Trump came into it because in the way that he came into all our lives, you know, that when he started running and kind of took over all available airspace, you know, it seems to be sucked all the air out of the room, you know, and I thought, well, I can't ignore this. You know, if you're trying to write a novel which is really about the present moment, then you have to respond to the present moment, you know. And so he got in that way. But the words Donald Trump don't occur in the novel.
No, they don't occur. And I mean, you talk about the Joker character, but then your narrator is quite alarmed about how America exposes itself as taking away its Batman mask and exposing the villain.
The villain underneath. Well, yes, I mean, the narrator is this young, kind of very idealistic young filmmaker who's very worried about his country, you know, and his parents, who are these rather sweet college professors, they argue, you know, we all know about people being in bubbles, you know, that's become a thing that everybody says, but they argue about who's in the bubble, you know, is it the kind of New York liberal elite that's in the bubble, or is it people in the red states who are denying climate change and disliking gay people and, you know, believing in the kind of religious fundamentalist view of the world? Who's in the bubble? Which is the bubble? You know, and they argue that these people who are denying science in the modern world, that's the bubble.
It seems that what's happening in America right now is a war against the elites.
But what is odd is that the redefinition of the word elite. You know, that's to say, to my mind, you have a government composed almost entirely of multi-billionaires. You know, and it's very odd for that government to be calling, you know, journalists, writers, college professors the elite. I mean, they're the ones with the private planes and the beachfront properties of the Bahamas, you know. So how is it that we get to be the elite? You know, I mean, it's very, very strange. As if knowledge and education are now considered to be elite. You know, that knowing things is somehow a problem.
So much of this novel is about truth.
Yes.
According to President Trump, white supremacists aren't the bad guys, and journalists. Where's truth headed right now?
Well, I think that's, you know, one of the things that really affected the way this book was written was this idea that the idea of the truth, the idea of, in fact, the idea of the nature of reality itself, you know, is under a kind of attack, you know, and not only by Trump, I mean, actually also by aspects of the internet where all sorts of garbage exists at the same level of authority as truth.
And how difficult is it to be an artist right now, a thinker though, and writing about this age where truth is under attack?
Well, it's difficult, but you know, there's an old cynical saying amongst writers that the worse it is, the better it is. You know, that's to say, it actually is easier to write about hard times than good times because there's a real subject. You know, in the old Soviet Union, the literature of the old Soviet Union was of a very high order because they were protesting. You know, since the end of the Soviet Union, I think Russian literature hasn't been quite of that order. You know, because the enemies disappeared. You know, and well, maybe not actually. But I think artists, not just writers, but filmmakers, visual artists, have begun to rise to the occasion, I think, you know, and I think not just by writing Trump books, you know, I think in a way there's too much Trump. And the thing of which Trump is a manifestation is the subject. You know, not what's wrong with him, but what's wrong with us. How did we let this happen? How did we get here from there? And how do we get back to somewhere else? You know, and I think...
Hey, how do we get back to somewhere else?
Well, first of all, I think we have to start voting. You know, I mean, while roughly 60 million people voted for Trump, 90 million people did not vote. You know, and when you have almost half the electorate choosing not to vote, you make possible kind of aberrations like this. You know, and so I think one of the things is to really just to try to encourage people that if they really want something to change, they've got to show up on election day. And maybe that'll happen. I mean, I have a sense, that the election of Trump has, in a way, energized the so-called resistance. That people are becoming aware that if you don't participate, then something happens which you don't want.
It's also energized the fringe, though. And I wonder, I mean, free speech is such a big deal to you. We all saw Charlottesville this summer. And do you believe that even those who are spewing hate, like they were at Charlottesville, do they deserve free speech?
Well, the First Amendment says they do. I mean, put it this way, that even very conservative Justice Scalia defended flag burning as being a First Amendment right. So if flag burning is free expression, so is carrying a Nazi flag. And you don't have to like it. But actually, I'd sooner know who they are. I mean, I think one of the interesting things about the Charlottesville thing is that, this was like the Ku Klux Klan, so confident that it wasn't wearing its hoods. As a result, we can identify them. And I think there's been a whole project to name and shame these people, and I think that's how you fight back. You fight back by demolishing the argument. I in the end, believe that no matter how objectionable an idea is, it's probably better out than in, better expressed than suppressed, because suppression creates a kind of glamour.
But I mean, you're someone who's paid a huge price for when someone said you couldn't say certain things. So I'm wondering, when you have students who are protesting about who should or shouldn't lecture, what do you think is happening?
I worry about
on
it.
our campuses?
I don't like it when when progressive voices support censorship. I mean, historically, censorship has been something that has come from the right, and the left and the progressive forces have fought against it. And now it is worrying to see that reversing.
Are you in me, Berkeley?
Why worrying?
Because, to endanger free speech is something which, in the first place, always the people who suffer from restrictions on free speech are minorities. It's always been the case historically. That if you think you can protect minorities by suppressing speech against them, you actually are endangering them because it is their speech that will be affected. So one of the things why people like me chose to live in the United States, was the First Amendment, was the enormous importance of that, and I don't like to see it being eroded.
So how are you feeling about the state of American democracy then?
Not great, but I also don't believe in despair. I think that's a luxury that we can't afford. And the question is to fight back. You look at the world and it's difficult not to feel some pessimism about it. But you also have to have the optimism that you can do something about it.
Speaking of the real world for Salman Rushdie, how much does the fatwa still impact you?
It doesn't. I only talk about it when I'm talking to journalists. I mean, I've lived in New York now since the year 2000, and it has no effect on my life. I take the subway, I go to Yankee Stadium.
You don't need to have security.
There hasn't been security for 20 years.
Donald Trump, you have met him on a couple of different occasions.
I met him 3 times, yeah.
What were your impressions?
He was always very friendly to me. I mean, that's the truth. The most recent time I met him was about this time of year. It was during the U.S. Tennis Open. And he offered me the use of his box. And he said, in a way that we've become rather familiar, he pointed out that he had the best box. You really have to see my box. It's a really great box. It's a great box. But very nice of him. I didn't take him up on it, but it was a nice offer. And I met him once at the opera when he, for some reason, pointed at me and told me that I was the man. You the man? I thought, very long index fingers. I thought, I suspect, I don't know if he has any memory of me at all, but I think if he reads the book, I might no longer be the man.
Thank you so much, Salman Rushdie.
Thank you. Thanks.
When we come back, a show of force in Syria. Russia wants the world to know it's beating back ISIS forces. Chris Brown looks to the future of a country torn by war.
I think a lot of the fellas make the mistake of looking for a girl that's absolutely perfect. Of course, you like to try and make her as almost perfect as you can, but Oh, I think you should learn to get along with the bad qualities and the good qualities.
What's your opinion on this business of going steady?
I think it's something that it just shouldn't be.
You mean it hasn't happened to you yet?
Not exactly.
It will someday. Don't look so smug.
I started dating when I was about 12 or 13. Well, so the prestige of having a boyfriend. I don't know, I think you get too tied down. It's almost like getting married.
How do you make up your mind how far you're going to go on a date? Or it depends on the girl.
Well, I've recently met a fellow who believes that without exception, men, women, whether they're separated, divorced, or three-time losers, still cling to the hope that somehow, somewhere, there's someone just for them. He's Morton Victor, who tried to speed the process of natural selection by organizing a singles festival.
Being single could be very frustrating. It could be very depressing at times.
Just came to meet some nice young girl.
Well, maybe in the sense to meet somebody.
Well, to meet some girls.
You have to go looking for men? No, I don't, but I mean, there's something new or something like that. I don't know.
Single and lonely and looking for love. A growing number of Canadians find themselves in precisely that situation these days.
The big problem today is the eternal one of finding someone who thinks you're as kind, sweet, sexy, sophisticated, witty, and intelligent as you know yourself to be. Where, oh where, to find such an extraordinary animal?
When your opening line is in a newspaper, you can say whatever you want. It's something single people in Toronto are doing more than ever.
You have total and complete anonymity.
Do you believe that you can find the woman of your dreams?
If you have the persistence to not be disappointed, by all rights, the heart should take over when you do meet the right person anyhow. Zippity-doo-dah, zippity-day. My, oh my, what a wonderful day. Hey!
Ryan Gosling is on top of the world. Well, at least the entertainment world. He's a mouseketeer.
Hey, Ma, I'm home. It was really neat because he kind of laid low and he did, he said, we picked out of a lot of talented kids and everything, Ryan, and, I wanted you to know that you're a mouseketeer. And I went, no way. And my mom she hit the roof.
My biggest feeling was just that I was so happy for Ryan. I was happy that he got a yes answer.
Ryan had already caught a lot of eyes with his feet. He'd won an Ottawa talent show, Homegrown Cafe, and several dance competitions in the United States as well. But it was his clean-cut looks and his singing which won him an audition with Disney officials last month in Florida.
She that travel around this floor and to put you down. So people, let me put you
Now, after signing a one-year contract, he'll do singing and dancing on the Mickey Mouse Club.
To me, it's luck because there was kids there that were just phenomenal, so luck.
Framed for murder. I know Willie Murdoch. Murdoch didn't kill anyone. Locked behind bars. You've hurt her. They should have protected me. You'll what? I'll kill you. Everyone close to Murdoch is a target. Who lives? Who dies? Where is she? Don't miss the shocking Murdoch premiere, Monday at 8 on CBC.
The scars of Syria's civil war are obvious. A ruined landscape, millions dead, wounded, or displaced. Russia entered the fray 2 years ago, supporting the regime of President Bashar al-Assad and beating back ISIS strongholds. It's also using a well-crafted media campaign to promote its successes. The CBC's Moscow correspondent, Chris Brown, was invited to join a recent tour. He's back in Russia now, and tonight he tells us about some of the things he saw and the questions they raise.
Ever since Russia started fighting in Syria's civil war 2 years ago, it's been bringing the world's media down to demonstrate how well the campaign is going. And most tours begin on this tarmac. This is Russia's airbase near the coastal city of Latakia. Over a week, journalists would crisscross Syria, never knowing where they're flying to. But day one almost always begins with bombing missions against ISIS targets. The heat from the engines, the sound, all of it is intense. One Russian officer boasted to us, "Now you can feel Russia's power." After 6 years of brutality, destruction, and incalculable suffering, Syria's civil war has reached a turning point. The Islamic State is nearing defeat. Russia is trying to regain its status as a key power in the Middle East, and it wants the world to give it credit for the victory. At the peak of its influence, some 10 million people lived under the control of the Islamic State in Syria and next door in Iraq. But now, ISIS has been pushed back far into Syria's eastern desert. The front line is now near Deir ez-Zor, and the military was eager to get journalists there. Deir ez-Zor had been surrounded by ISIS forces for 3 years. It took humanitarian airdrops to prevent tens of thousands of people from starving to death. Syrian government troops, with Russian help, finally broke through to relieve the siege just a few days before our group arrived. Russia is a friend, a very, very good friend. We like Russia. We respect and appreciate them, this storekeeper told reporters. It wasn't only Russia that wanted to liberate Deir ez-Zor. Beyond those hills, the opposition Free Syrian Army and militias backed by the United States are also racing to get here. Nearby are Syria's main oil fields, a source of wealth for whoever controls them. The battlefield in Syria is immensely complicated. There are Syrian government troops, government opponents, Islamic groups, and many militias, all of which are backed by different foreign powers: the United States, Iran, Turkey, and Russia. For now, there is a general agreement not to attack each other, but instead to focus on defeating the Islamic State. It's overwhelming to see how 6 years of civil war has ruined this country. The destruction of the historic city of Aleppo is catastrophic, but the obliteration is absolutely everywhere. In Aleppo's town square, which saw only minimal fighting, posters of dictator Bashar al-Assad were among the first things to be restored. Workers were also tiling, but a reconstruction job so immense requires billions of dollars from the world's richest economies. And as long as Assad remains in power with Russian support, those countries have shown no interest in moving beyond humanitarian work. A stop at a Syrian school appeared to suggest Vladimir Putin's government is helping Syrian children and their teachers. But precisely how was never made clear. There were no fact sheets, no background briefings. Nor was there much time to talk to Syrians. Almost by accident, journalists found out that this teacher had lost her leg, and 9 children at the school died when a rocket hit the building. The unrelenting pace of the trip ensured a lot of smiling faces appeared on camera, but the smiles were missing context. The tour did show some examples of Russians helping civilians. Outside Homs, for example, Russian aid trucks showed up and people on both opposition and government sides were able to get food. Arguably, such scenes are aimed as much at Russians back home as the international community. Polls suggest that the Russian public is at best lukewarm to the idea of being in Syria. Russia's government may want to keep its ally in Syria in power to enhance its influence in the Middle East, but a lot of Russians remember that their military got bogged down in Afghanistan In the 1980s, they worry that Syria might be a commitment that never ends. With a trip deep into the desert to the just liberated town of Akrabat, the tour returned to a military theme. 10,000 people once lived here, but the place is now deserted. How many people were executed in the Sharia courthouse that the Russians showed off? It was never said, nor was how many Russian bombs fell on this place. The alleged bombing of civilians is likely the most contentious issue of Russia's participation in this conflict. Russia faced international outrage when East Aleppo was bombed in 2016, but denied its planes targeted civilians, only insurgents. It was a claim that much of the world scoffed at. On this trip, Russian military leaders echoed similar denials of civilian victims, but it was impossible to verify anything. Standing in what used to be an ISIS tank factory, the Russian general announced the final phase of the war would be to hunt down and kill as many ISIS militants as possible. Many ISIS fighters, in fact, come from Russia's Caucasus region, so it's better to hunt them down in Syria than hunt them down at home. The biggest takeaway after watching Russia's military operation for a week is that ISIS, as a caliphate, appears to be on its last legs. But even without territory, ISIS could remain a dangerous terrorist organization as it was at the start of this conflict. Russian air power, including cruise missiles fired at sea, and know-how on the ground, has made the decisive difference in this conflict. But the many grievances with the Assad regime that led the different factions to go to war in the first place remain unresolved. The defeat of ISIS will not heal Syria. Chris Brown, CBC News, in Moscow.
Coming right up for you, Winnipeg sets the stage for change.
It's tough for a neighborhood like this to start thinking about revitalization because it almost feels like it's too far gone, right?
How large-scale street art points the way forward.
This is the story of building the Trans Mountain Pipeline. Between Jasper and Red Pass, a start is made. All the latest weapons employed by engineers in modern pipeline construction converge on the theaters of war. The enemy, one by one, toppling to echoing cries of timber. And the steel monsters arrive. To 140 sidings from Edmonton to Vancouver, 5,000 railway flat cars bring their loads of pipes, and then to their individual prearranged spots in the continuous chain. They're linked together by a complicated process that assures 100% accuracy. The pipe is 24 inches in diameter, and every inch of it must be evenly coated. And then checked and rechecked. Then a wrapping is added, made from glass, felt, and asbestos, as the men observe their finished product laid to rest. A continuous tube, liquid railway, stretching 718 miles.
The big question is, of course, whether there is life on Mars, and the short answer is that it's not impossible.
No one knows what Mars really looks like, but this week, streaming back from deep space is the best information in history, bringing us nearer the answers concerning the origin of life, whether man is something special or a special freak.
The search for life on Mars is still continuing. Data received from the Viking landers have puzzled NASA scientists, and within the past 2 days, they've been able to confirm that the ice caps of Mars are really frozen water, not carbon dioxide as once believed. So the chances of finding life get better with each passing day.
Its past was hostile and torn by meteors. Its present is cold and barren. A colony here would seem a futile fantasy. But today's dreamers are scientists, and they do their dreaming for NASA.
I think the possibility of Mars as a second home for mankind is very important for our future as a race.
The students are building a prototype Martian colony called Marsville. It's on Earth, but they do understand what it will take to settle on Mars.
The temperature on Mars is a lot colder than on Earth.
And these students understand cooperation is the only way to get to Mars.
With all of the technology they have now, we could have somebody go up pretty soon.
They've come from all over the world for this meeting of the International Mars Society. They've got bumper stickers. They've got a Martian flag already picked out.
The one question that always comes up is this: is it worth the many billions more to put people on the surface of the red planet rather than just machines?
The Mars fans here admit the barriers are huge, but they also say we have the capability and the money to get to Mars. All we need now is the will to do it.
To find out more, we need to go out into space, and space research, like politics, is the art of the possible. What we would like to do must be weighed against what we can do.
Grace, don't think I don't know what you've been up to.
Will you tell me your story, Grace? As the real one is not written in your confession.
Murderous is a strong word to have attached to you. Sometimes at night I whisper it over to myself. Murderous. Murderous.
The 2017 Artistic Gymnastics World Championships, exclusively on CBC Sports.
In Winnipeg, giant, colorful murals are changing the face of a troubled neighborhood. Having seen its share of crime, drugs, and alcohol, the art isn't just helping outsiders see the community differently, but people inside as well. The CBC's Tegan Bodette has our story.
Right now, it's an empty courtyard in a neighborhood that's seen better days.
Just beware, there's just lots of glass.
But soon it'll be home to two massive collaborative murals in Winnipeg's North End, joining other murals around the city.
If this is your walk to work, that is part of, the imagery is part of your day, that really shapes who we are.
They'll be the latest additions to a cultural initiative revitalizing some of the city's most loved but neglected areas.
It's less so just about coming in and making an art piece and walking away. It's more so about these multi-generation collaborative projects.
They give a wide variety of artists a platform to explore what matters to them, from environmental threats in Nunavut to missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls.
They're passing on into the spiritual world, and they're transforming into bison, and they're running away free.
The murals are meant to last years, maybe even decades. This one on the former police headquarters likely won't. The city plans to demolish the building in the next few years. Artist Mike Valcourt says there's a dark symbolism in that, a mural dedicated to murdered and missing Indigenous women and girls.
For Winnipeg's aging North End, the murals are a step toward restoration.
It's tough for a neighborhood like this to start thinking about revitalization because it almost feels like it's too far gone, right?
Andrew Sani works with the Neighborhood Renewal Group. He hopes the murals will draw people from all over, just like similar projects in Philadelphia and Miami.
My dream would be that people from other areas, they park their car and then they just walk through it. It's like a massive outdoor art gallery.
They're not there yet, but they are attracting attention from all over Canada, and more importantly, from people right here.
We had community people walking up and going, this is beautiful.
These murals will be finished soon, and next year, more artists will transform this neighborhood's blank canvases. Tegan Bodette, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Before we go, a quick recap for you of our top stories.
What so proudly we hailed
at NFL games across the United States, players and owners kneel or link arms during the national anthem. Political fault lines running right through American sport after Donald Trump singles out a player for his long-running protest against racial injustice.
Get that son of a bitch off the field right now. Out. He's fired. He's fired!
And in Bangladesh, scenes of horror are etched into the faces and heard in the stories of Rohingya refugees, lives born, uprooted, and homeless. as the camps and the need grow. That's the National for this Sunday night. For news at any hour, you can always go to our website, cbcnews.ca. I'm Neil Kirksall. Thanks so much for watching.